So now that I got this concept worked out that I have to make my object editable before I can move its axis, I'm going to close this temporary document that I was using to experiment with this concept, and I'm going to go back to the simple model that I've created for the leg. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the upper leg, and with the upper leg selected, I'm going to make the object editable. And once I do that, I can change to use axis tool, and I can lift that axis straight up along the y-axis, and I'm just eyeballing this, and I'm moving that pivot point just above the geometry or the polygon object itself. Now when I'm done, I'm always going to go back to the use model tool, and I'm just going to go to the rotate, and I'm going to test that joint. I'm going to rotate it. I'm using the red axis band. The way that I've built this is that its orientation is the front of the foot is running in the z-axis. Okay, so I'm grabbing this red rotation band, or I'm rotating this around the x-axis, and I see that that's rotating just the way that I want. So I'm going to go to the lower leg, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make it editable. I'm going to go to the axis tool, make sure that the move tool is selected. I'm going to move that up, and I'm just dropping that axis roughly in between those two pieces of geometry. That makes my knee joint. I'm going to go back to the model mode here. I'm going to go to the rotate tool. I'm just going to test that rotation. That looks like it's bending just the way that I want it. And I'm going to do the same thing with the foot. I'll select the foot, make it editable. I'm going to take the axis, and I'm going to move that. Now this one I'm going to get a little bit tighter in. And I'll just put that pivot point right in the middle, pretty much right where the ankle is. I'm going to go back to use model mode, or the use model tool. I'm going to go to rotation, and I'll just rotate that ankle. That looks pretty good. That's pretty much what I want. Okay, so I'll undo that rotation, or I'll zero out the rotation value of the object, and I'll go back to the move tool. So that's the first step in getting the leg orientation organized. Now, I got a little problem with my current solution, in that obviously if I rotate my upper leg, it'd be pretty cool if the rest of the leg went with it. And so we can build this sort of arrangement with a parent-child relationship. Now, we did this back in the 3D design class, or maybe you're doing it, or you just recently done it in the 3D design class. And the concept here is that you can take two objects and nest one into the other and build a parent-child relationship. And in this case, I'm going to take the upper leg is going to be the parent object, which means that I'm going to take the lower leg and nest the lower leg inside the upper leg. And I can do that by dragging the lower leg on top of the upper leg, and I'm looking for that little arrow that pops up when I drag this to point down. That means that I'm going to make the object that I have selected and dragging and dropping onto it as a parent. So I'm parenting the lower leg. That's the term used. I'm parenting the lower leg. The lower leg becomes a child. Upper leg is parent. The lower leg is the child. And now if I take the upper leg, I can test this rig by rotating the upper leg. And when I do that, the lower leg travels with it. And the concept here you can think of is that the parent-child relationship is that the child, I'll select the child, can run around and do whatever it wants to do. It can rotate and it can move. But where the parent goes, the child goes with it. Okay, so if you make the arrangements just like I have here, I can take the lower leg and I can rotate that and bend it as if it were a knee. I can take the upper leg and I can rotate that, and it maintains the relationship between the upper leg and the lower leg. I'll undo that rotation, both of those rotations, until my knee snaps down into its original position. I'm going to do the same thing with the foot, but if you think about it, when you want the lower leg to move, you want the foot to travel with it, and that's a pretty good indicator that that is the parent object for the foot. So I'm going to take the foot, I'm going to drag and drop it into the lower leg, and so the relationship I have here is I have the upper leg as the parent, nested inside the lower leg, nested inside the upper leg is the lower leg, and nested inside the lower leg is the foot. If I take the upper leg, I can rotate that. I can take the lower leg, I can rotate that. and I can take the foot and I can rotate that. This is a parent-child relationship. This is the basic concept we're going to use to build a really simple rig to create our walk cycle. So review this if you need to. This concept might be a little abstract at first, but if you play around with it a few times, build it, rebuild it, things will start to click. If you want to break the parent-child relationship, it's very simple to do. I can take the lower leg and I can drag this up, and as soon as I see that arrow point to the left, I'll drag it up and over the upper leg, and when I see that arrow pointing to the left, that means it's going to place it at the same hierarchical level as or the root of the object manager. So I'll do the same thing with the foot. I can drag it down here, and I'm looking for that arrow to point to the left, and that tells me that I'm just where I want it to be. Again, I could take the foot and drag and drop it inside the lower leg goes into the upper leg, and now we have the basic rig for our lower leg. So we'll talk about building the rest of the body, the upper body here, in the next presentation.